Hi, hello, welcome to our channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about registration chapter in GST. Here, registration GST is a PAN-based and state of specific person. There may be one registration for one state. And here, some definitions of, first of all, place of business, section 2, class 85. What is mean by place of business? A person who is where the business is ordinarily carried on, and it includes warehouse, godowns and any other persons where taxable persons stores is goods or services or both. Next, where a person taxable person his books of accounts, or where taxable person is engaged business through an agent. So agents or books of accounts, or where the goods is storing the place. These three places are known as place of business. Next, some other definitions he provided. Here, business means what? Business includes section 2 class 17. What is meant by business? Any trade or commerce, manufacture, profession, vacation, adventure, wager or any other similar activity where are not pecuniary benefits, where not for pecuniary benefits, and any activity or transaction in connection with above transactions, or ancillary to the above transactions, or any activity or transaction in the nature of above, there is not for their value or frequency or continuity or regularity. There may be not regular person, it may be a casual person, so that type of Next, supply or acquisition of goods including capital assets and services in connection with commencement or close of business. There is disclosure of business assets. Next, provisions by clubs, associations, societies or any such other bodies of facilities or benefits to the members. So any associations or any clubs, they provided their services to their members. It is that here there may be any other consideration and admission for consideration of a person to any premises. Next, services supplied by a person has the holder of an office which has been accepted by him in the course or furtherance of trade or profession or vocation. Person is doing one profession, for example one hero, and he is electing for elections of a T, like a Ma TV elections, the type of elections. If he is in course or furtherance of business, it is also treated as a business. Next, activities of a race club including by way of totalizer or license to bookmaker or activities of licensed bookmaker in such club. Next, any activity or transactions undertaken by central government, state government, local authorities which they are engaged as public authorities. This is related to definitions. Next, here concept of taxable persons, who is said to be concept of taxable person, who said to be taxable persons. Here we in these sections we are going to discuss, in the chapter we are going to discuss some sections, over 8 sections. That is section 22, who is the person liable for registration. Section 23, person not liable for registration. Section 24, compulsory registration in certain cases. 25, procedure, how to registrations, what is the time limit for their registrations. Section 26, it is a deemed registration. And section 27, special provisions relating to casual taxable person and non-resident taxable persons. And section 28, amendment for registration. If you have any registration mistakes, you can amendment for section 28. Next, section 29, if you don't want to continue your business, you may cancel your business, cancellation or suspension of registration. Section 29. Section 30, revocation of cancellation of registration. If the proper officer cancel your registration, you can get revoked your registration. This is total 22 to 29. What is there in section 22? Section 22 relates to person who is liable to registration. Here, threshold limit for registration. What is the threshold limit for registration? Every supplier of goods or services or both is required to obtain registration. First of all, every supplier who is supplying goods or services both required for registration in the state or union territory from where he make the taxable person, where he is making. If he is making in Telangana state, you should register in Telangana state. If he is making supplies in Andhra Pradesh, you should make registration at Andhra Pradesh. So it is like that. And if his aggregate turnover exceeds a specified time limit, specified threshold limit in any financial year, then you want to register in GST registration. Here aggregate turnover means what? Aggregate turnover is a crucial parameter. Aggregate turnover includes as per section 2 class 6. Aggregate turnover means value of all outward supplies, that is taxable supplies, exempted supplies, export supplies, interstate supplies, or interstate supplies of person having same PAN be computed on all India basis. Next, these all are includes aggregate turnover. Next, as per section 2 class 6, aggregate turnover is provided above. This is for who are getting the registration. Aggregate turnover to exclude inward supplies of which tax are payable under reverse charge mechanism. Who is paying the reverse charge mechanism? That is, this side options are excluded. Means out of that turnover, that is taxable turnover, exempted supplies, exports, interstate supplies, from these amounts we should exclude the taxes related to GST, that is CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST, compensation cess, and values or inward supplies on which payable under reverse charge mechanism. That is section 22. Aggregate turnover, section 2 class 6 will be discussed. Next, outward supplies taxable under reverse charge would continue to be part of aggregate turnover of supplier of such supplies. Next, here Raghubir Private Limited pays GST on sitting fees paid to its director for the values rendered by them under reverse charge. So here the person the company is paying reverse charge mechanism, for who is the director is sitting fee paying. For value of services provided by the director to Ranbir Private Limited will form part of aggregate turnover of the director and not to the Raghubir Private Limited. It is related, even though here company is paying under reverse charge mechanism. That turnover becomes turnover to the person who is providing a service. Here director is providing the service. Director is not paying the tax, even though he is not paying the tax. But his company is paying tax in reverse charge basis. That turnover becomes his turnover, not the company turnover. Next, aggregate turnover excludes the elements of CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST and compensation cess. Next, aggregate turnover to include total turnover of all branches under same PAN. Here one example AX. A dealer X has two offices. He have two offices, at one is Delhi and one at Haryana. So Delhi, Haryana, in accordance for determining the aggregate turnover of X, turnover of both offices would be taken into account. Next, here we will include the value of exported goods, services, exempted goods, services of interstate supplies, including interstate supplies between distinct person having same persons, to be included in aggregate turnover. Distinct person means who is the person having same registration, same PAN with multiple registration. He is known as distinctive person. For example, Madura Oils, Punjab is engaged in supplying oil, machine oil as well as petrol. Okay, supply of petrol is not liable to GST. Petrol is not liable to GST as of now, but such supply of machine oil is taxable. In order to determine aggregate turnover of Madura Oils, turnover includes both non-taxable as well as taxable. Here taxable will be machine oil, non-taxable will be petrol. Both will aggregate, and if the turnover exceeds the threshold limit, it will be registered. Next, aggregate turnover to include all supplies made by the taxable person, whether on his own account or made on behalf of or his principals. There may be appoint some persons. For example, Mohini Enterprises has appointed Mrs. Bestford and Associates as its agent. Okay, he is appointed one person as a agent. Okay, Mr. Bestford and Associates makes supply of goods on its own account as well as on behalf of Mohini. So he is doing the turnover, he is doing the business for on his own and as well as behalf of Mohini Enterprises. All the supplies of goods made by Mrs. Best Fruits and Associates as agent of Mohini Enterprise as well as on its own account will be included in the aggregate turnover of Mrs. Best Fruit Associates. Mr. Best Fruit Associates. So here the turnover includes agent turnover also will be included. Next, aggregate turnover versus turnover in state. Turnover in the state means wherever you are supplying the states, from that turnover it will be treated as state turnover. Next, aggregate turnover means all India pan basis. Next, value of goods after completion of job work supplied directly from the premises of the registered job work not be included in aggregate turnover. This is when value of goods after completing the goods. In value of goods, for example, if you are send some goods, you see here, if the job worker is registered person, a principal supply is notified goods. Goods can be supplied directly from the premises of job worker. Next, supply of goods after completion of job work directly from a registered job worker. Premises is treated as supply of goods by principal. For example, registered job worker. If you are a you are a principal and supplies good to a job worker for processing the same. You are doing one I think so one machinery. You are manufacturing one machinery. For that machinery, some items will be prepared by the another person, attaching some other person. So you have sent that other person. He is treated as job worker. If he may register or not register, no matters whatever he say. And job worker after the completion of work, supplies goods directly to the buyer after completion of job work on the same, that is buyer. Then here supply of such goods shall be treated as supply of goods by the principal. Even though goods sent from job work, it will be treated as from principal, and the value of such goods shall be included in the aggregate turnover of the principal. It will be treated as turnover in the principal turnover only. Here, what is the threshold limits? Threshold limits. Who exceeds the threshold limits? For threshold limit elaborately provided. For year, yeah, aggregate turnover, whatever the aggregate turnover will be, taxable supplies, exempted supplies, exports, interstate supply will be aggregate turnover. What is the applicable threshold limit? Applicable threshold limit means here category wise, that is 3 category wise we are discussing 3 category wise. Normally it will be a 20 lakhs. That is aggregate turnover of 20 lakhs in a financial year. Which person exceeds 20 lakhs both from service and goods, then he must get registered under GST. For some states they are provided aggregate turnover less and more, that is 20 lakhs is main, and above 20 lakhs means 40 lakhs, that is 40 lakhs for some states, that is 21 states, and 10 lakhs is related to some states for special category states. What is the 10 lakhs? If a person carrying out a business, business on special category states, then threshold limit of 10 lakhs will be applicable for that supplier of goods and or services. What is there in this 10 lakhs category? 10 lakhs category will be only 4 states. 10 lakh category will be only 4 states. Actually 4 states. That is 20 lakhs is reduced from to 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs will be applicable to only 4 states. That is Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland. Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura. These 4 states turnover will be 10 lakhs when the supplier of goods and services. If the place with place of business in different states across in India has one branch in special category state, then the threshold limit for GST registration will be reduced to 10 lakhs. For example, you are in AP, your turnover will be 40 lakhs, but you have one registration at that Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. Then your turnover limit will be 10 lakhs only whenever you are dealing with special category states. This is first special category state, the turnover will be 10 lakhs. Next, government is empowered to enhance the threshold limit 20 lakhs up to 40 lakhs for some states. Next, as per section 22, As per section 22, here 22, a person will be considered to be engaged exclusively in the supply of goods, even if he engaged in exempted supply of services provided by way of extending deposits, loans or advances, insofar for the consideration is represented by way of interest or discounts. It will be treated as interest or discounts. Next, exempt person who is engaged exclusively in supply of goods. When this 40 lakhs turnover will be come only when the person is exclusively for in supply of goods, then only this 40 lakhs will be applicable. Otherwise it will come under 20 lakhs category, or if you are in a special category you will fall under 10 lakhs category. Next, here there is some exceptions. There are I think four exemptions. What is the four exemptions for this registration threshold limit? If a person require for take compulsory registration under section 24, if you want to take compulsory registration, then threshold limit of 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs will not be seen. Next, person engaged in making supplies of ice cream and other edible oil, whether or not containing coca, pan masala and all goods and chopped tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. So person who is dealing in some items like pan masala, tobacco, or ice creams, edible ice creams. For this person 40 lakhs turnover will be not applicable. They will apply for registration even though the turnover will be 10 rupees only. Next, person engaged in making interstate supplies in Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Pondicherry, Telangana. These states the turnover limit will be 20 lakhs only. These states the turnover limit will be 10 lakhs only. And the person who is in Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, that person's turnover will be 10 lakhs only. Next, person who has opted for voluntary registration or such registration person who intended to continue with their registration under GST Act. If you are registered on a voluntary basis, you would not require for 40 lakhs turnover. Here they are provided that whoever applicable for whatever turnovers. For states, for special category states it will be 10 lakhs always. For special categories it will be always 10 lakhs. For example, if you are a special category others than special category status, then Pondicherry, Telangana others, then what is your turnover? Pondicherry means 20 lakhs, Telangana means 20 lakhs, others will be 40 lakhs. This is 40 lakhs is applicable only when you are in goods, exclusively goods. If you come under goods and services, then your turnover will be 20 lakhs only. If you are dealing with special category states and constitution of other states, here Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura always 10 lakhs if they are in goods or if they are in service or if they are in goods and turnover. That 4 states will be always 10 lakhs only. Next, other states was who is having in Jammu Kashmir, Assam, Himachal Pradesh. These are 40 lakh states, and Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand. These are 20 lakhs cases. If you are in only for goods, then you are 40 lakhs. If you are exclusively for goods and services, then your turnover will be 20 lakhs. That is the limits. So who is applicable for 10 lakhs, who is for 20 lakhs, who is for 40 lakhs? For 10 lakhs, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. And 20 lakhs case will be Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Pondicherry, Telangana. Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, AM Soup, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Pondicherry, Telangana, Puducherry, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh. This is the case for 20 lakhs case, even though they are in goods or services. For other states like Jammu and Kashmir, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, all other status will be it will be a 40 lakhs turnover. If you are exclusively engaged in goods, if you are goods plus services, then your turnover will be 20 lakhs only. For example number 5, what is there in example number 5? In example number 5, they will discuss about Prithviraj of Assam. In Assam means he will come under 40 lakh category, 40 lakhs category. Okay, he is exclusively engaged in interstate supplies of shoes. So he is exclusively engaged in goods. So his turnover will be 40 lakhs. His aggregate turnover in current year is 22 lakhs. In view of the discussion in the above para, the applicable turnover limit for registration for Prithvi in the given case will be 40 lakhs. Thus he is not liable to get registered under GST. Next, if above example, all the other things remaining the same. If Prithviraj is exclusively engaged in supply of pan masala, if he is in pan masala, then we will not see the turnover limit. He will must register even though his turnover will be for 10 rupees. So the answer will be exclusively engaged in pan masala instead of shoes. You will not be eligible for highest threshold limit 40 lakhs, and applicable threshold limit for registration in that case will be 20 lakhs. That Prithviraj will be liable to get registered under GST. So 40 lakhs will be not applicable, 20 lakhs only. Next, if instead of pan masala, Prithviraj exclusively engaged in supply of taxable services, even though the taxable supplies, taxable services, threshold limit for registration will be still 20 lakhs only. So if you are in service, then threshold limit will be 20 lakhs. Next, further, if Prithviraj is engaged in supply of both taxable goods and services, then threshold limit will become 20 lakhs only to get registration. Next, example number 6, Shivaji of Telangana is exclusively engaged in interstate supplies. Of toys, exclusively goods. So it will be actually 40 lakhs, but the state is Telangana, so it will be 20 lakhs case. Shivaji, since Shivaji is making taxable supplies from Telangana, he will not be eligible for higher threshold limit. So he is exclusively supply of goods. His registration limit will be 20 lakhs. Next, in the above example, all other things same. So Shivaji exclusively engaged in taxable supplies instead of toys. Even though he is in goods or even though in services, his turnover limit will be 20 lakhs only. Next, further, if Shivaji is engaged in supply of both taxable and goods, then also his registration turnover will be 20 lakhs only for Telangana person. Next, Ashoka of Manipur will means 10 lakh turnover person. That is, Manipur is exclusively engaged in interstate supplies of paper. If aggregate turnover in the current year is 12 lakhs, so 12 lakhs means exceeded 10 lakhs, he is liable to get registration because he is in special category state. Next, in the above example, all other things remain same. Ashok exclusively engaged in taxable supplies. Even though he is in taxable supplies, his aggregate turnover will be 10 lakhs only because he is in Manipur. And for if Ashoka is engaged in both supply of taxable goods and services, then also his aggregate turnover will become 10 lakhs only. Next, Raghava of Assam is exclusively engaged in interstate supply of ready-made garments. So he is in Assam. Assam become that 40 lakhs turnover category. If turnover of current financial year, Assam showroom is 20 lakhs. Okay, 20 lakhs. If another showroom is in Tripura, Tripura is special category state. So special category state turnover will be 10 lakhs. If you are dealing with one non special category and one per special category state, then your turnover will be based on that special category state. So special category state turnover will be 10 lakhs. So your turnover becomes 10 lakhs only. Turnover from Tripura 11 lakhs. Our turnover 28 lakhs. it became 39 lakhs. Since Raghava is engaged in supplying garments from special category state as per section 22, the applicable threshold limit is get to reduce to 10 lakhs only. Further, Raghava is liable to get registered under GST in both states, Assam and Tripura, of his aggregate turnover crossing threshold limit of 10 lakhs. That is related to threshold limit for registration. Next, registration required for only place of business where taxable supplies takes place. Okay, here what they tell that a person is required to obtain registration with respect to each place of business in India from where taxable supplies has taken place. However, supplier is not liable to obtain registration in state or UT from where he makes exempted or non-taxable supplies. If you are making only exclusively exempted supplies, or you are made only non-taxable supplies, then you need not to get registration. Further, the threshold limit of persons having takes place business in more than one state UT in India get reduced to 10 lakhs only when such person makes taxable supplies of goods or services or both from any of the special category states as per section 22. So that special category states turnover will be attracted when they are in taxable supplies. If they are in non-taxable supplies, then it will not be applicable. Next, however, in case he makes exempt and non-taxable supplies from special category states and taxable supplies from state other than special category, then threshold limit shall not be reduced. If, for example, you are in AP, you are making taxable supplies here, and one Tripura in you are making non-taxable supplies, then your turnover will be 40 lakhs only. It will not reduced. Next, example number 9. What is there in example number 9? Uday Enterprise is engaged in supply of taxable goods in Maharashtra. So he is in Maharashtra. Okay, is Maharashtra is explained in anywhere? No. So it will be turnover will be 40 lakhs. Maharashtra turnover will be 40 lakhs. It also supplies alcoholic liquor for human consumption from Nagaland. Nagaland is a special category state that 10 lakhs will be applicable for Nagaland. Okay, 34 lakhs from Maharashtra and 8 lakhs from Nagaland. 8 lakhs is Nagaland. What is selling alcoholic liquor for human consumption? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is a non-taxable supply which is not came under the GST. So, since Uday Enterprise is exclusively engaged in making taxable supplies of goods from Maharashtra, the applicable threshold limit for obtaining registration is 40 lakhs. Further, threshold limit will not be reduced to 10 lakhs in the case supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption for Nagaland, that is one special category state or non-taxable turnover. In the given case, since aggregate turnover of Uday Enterprise exceeds applicable threshold limit of 40 lakhs, applicable turnover of 40 lakhs, it is liable to obtain. It will obtain registration in Maharashtra but not required to obtain registration in Nagaland as he is not making any taxable supplies from said state. Here, if you take the turnover, total aggregate turnover was exceeded, that is 34 plus 8 means 42 lakhs. Now you will get the registration only at taxable supplies made Maharashtra. It is not required at Nagaland registration. Next, persons liable for registration in case of transfer of business. Persons liable for in case of transfer of businesses, where business is transferred, where you are transferred your businesses on account of succession or any other reasons, including transfer, change in ownership of business due to death of sole proprietor to another person has a going concern, then transferee or successor is to be registered with effect from the date of such transfer or succession. Here you must take another registration and old registration. Cancel the old registration. First, which one you must do? For old registration cancel, after new registration, or after new registration old will be cancelled. First you take new registration and then transfer old registration ITC, then it will be cancel the old GST registration, where the business is transferred pursuant to sanction of scheme arrangement for amalgamation or demerger of two or more companies pursuant to any order. of High Court or Tribunal. The transferee is to be registered with effect from the date on which the Registrar of Company issues certificate of incorporating giving effect to such order. Next, section number 24. What is there in section 24? This is related to compulsory registration in certain cases. Compulsory registration in certain cases. Who is there in this compulsory registration? Who is there in compulsory registration? The persons who is making any interstate taxable supplies. Who is making interstate taxable supplies? Interstate means I am from AP and I am supplying the goods to Chennai. I am supplying to goods to Chennai. So here there is two states involved. So when two states involved, you must get the registration without their turnover applicability. So, however, threshold limit of 20 lakhs, that is 10 lakhs in case of special categories Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur and Nagaland is available in case of interstate supplies of taxable services and notified handicapped goods and handmade goods for person who is taking, that is who is making interstate supplies, then he will get registration, here what we will tell, only the person who is dealing in interstate supply of goods, then he must get registration. But if he is in a interstate supply of services, then turnover limit will be C. Or even he is making handmade handicapped items, then turnover will be notified. Only the goods, then he get the registration. Next, casual taxable person. Here casual taxable person are also same, sir. Who is casual taxable person? However, threshold limit of 20 lakhs or 10 lakhs in case of special category tax is available in case of CTP who is making interstate taxable supplies of notified handicapped. If he is making handicapped goods, then the person required registration only after turnover limit is crossed. Even other cases, who is person making casual taxable person, he get registration even his turnover will be 10 rupees. Next, person who is required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, who is making reverse charge making. On the other hand, person engaged exclusively in making outward supplies, tax on which liable to paid on reverse charge basis are exempted from registration. So here who is outward supplies making only reverse charge mechanism is got exemption, but who is taking the reverse charge basis services, he must get registered. In our case, in first we started with director sitting fee, that is company is liable and director is not liable. Director is providing reverse charge mechanisms, so director is not get registration also, it will be correct, but company must get registration and he must pay the GST on reverse charge basis. Next, non-resident taxable person, NRTP, making taxable supplies. If he is making taxable supplies NRTP, then he must get the registration as per section 24. Next, e-commerce operator. Here two person will be discussed. That is every ECO liable to get GST under section 95 person. Who is there? 95 persons. Here 95 persons there may be discussed about 4 persons. That is housekeeping, accommodation, transportation and eating from restaurant persons. It will be that specified persons in section 95, and person who is liable to deduct TCS under section 52. These two persons must get registration as per section 24. And next, here next services, ECS services. So persons who is required to deduct tax under section 51, who is get TDS deductor under section 51, he must get registration under GST. And next, person who makes taxable supply of goods or services are both on behalf of other taxable person, whether as an agent or otherwise. If any person is making, that is agent is making supply of goods or services on behalf of supplier, then he must get the registration under section 24. Under section 24. Next, input service distributor. He is a person who distributes the inputs to the other branches. Then he must get the registration as per section 24. Separate registration is required for distributing the ITC. Next, every person supplying online information and database access or retrieval service, that is OIDAR services. From place outside India to person place in India. Person places outside India to India who is making supplies outside India to India, that is OIDAR services. Then and making supplies to this persons other than registered persons to a person in India other than non-registered persons. Then he must get registration as per section 24. Next, a person who is required to pay tax under section 95, that is who is the person supplier of dealing goods through e-commerce operator. Next, 11th one, such other person or class of person as may be specified by government or on recommendation of the council. This is all the persons who is required to get registration even though their turnover will be exceeded for their registration. So here what is their first person is interstate suppliers. Interstate person, only the taxable goods will be seen, and handicapped person, there will be, if the service or handicapped, we will go for with turnover basis. Next, casual taxable person, if he is a handicapped goods, then we will see the turnover, otherwise we will get registration directly. Next, CTP person, that is casual taxable person, here also handicapped. Next, person who is a reverse charge mechanism 93 he get the registration. Next, non-resident taxable person, NRTP, must taxable supplies, he get registration. Next, e-commerce operator, here two sections, that is section 52 and section 9 subsection 5, who is providing that services, he must get the liable for registration under GST. Next, 6th person who is the required TDS deductor and IST distributor and agent and OIR services to NTOR services. Next, any other commerce as may be specified, Next, these are all persons required to get registration under GST, even though their turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs or 10 lakhs. Next, persons, section 23, persons not liable for registration. Here there are some persons who is not required to get registration in the GST. The first person will be person who is engaged exclusively in supply of goods, services, both which is not liable to tax or which is only exempted from tax, then he is not required to get registration. If he not get registration, for example, Madhur Oils, Punjab is exclusively engaged in supplying petrol. That petrol is not liable to GST. So that Madhur Oils is not liable to for registration, has it engaged exclusively in the supply of goods or not liable to tax. Next, Bhavya Jyoti Foundation, a charitable trust registered under section 12AB of Income Tax Act 1961, is exclusively engaged in supply of services by way of charitable activities. Charitable activities are exempted under section GST. So, services by entity registered under section 12AB of Income Tax Act 1961 by way of charitable activities are exempted from GST. So, Bhavya Jyoti Foundation is not liable for registration as it is exclusively engaged in supplying services exempted from tax. Next, persons Who is a agriculturist? Who is a agriculturist? Limited to supply produce out of cultivation of land. So person who is trusting land and growing plants and getting the agriculture income, he is not liable to pay GST. He is not liable to pay GST. Here as per section 2 class 7, agriculturist means agriculture any individual or HUF who undertakes cultivation of land. Cultivation of land is must require. He may be by own labor or by labor of family, or he may appoint some servants or wages paid to in cash or kind by hired labor and personal supervision of any member of family. About definition, it is clear that benefit not being liable to registration is only restricted to agriculturist who is individual or HUFs. Further, if agriculture is engaged in making any supply other than supply produce out of cultivation of land, then he shall get registered based on applicable threshold limit. If he is dealing in agriculture and any other business, then if the business is exceeds aggregate turnover, then he get the registration is compulsory. For example, Deshbandhu is an agriculturist engaged in cultivation of wheat in his field in the state of Punjab. He was exclusively engaged in supply of wheat cultivated in his field in the previous year. So he is exclusively engaged in agriculture. So he is not required for get registration under GST. Next, in current year, what he has done in current year, he decided to start trading in rice apart from supplying his wheat produced. So his turnover in current year will be 32 lakhs from supply of wheat produced and 9 lakhs from trading of rice. So after cultivation he got the 32 lakhs and from trading of rice he got the 9 lakhs, which is exceed the limit. So he will liable for registration under GST. Since he is engaged in trading of rice also, he is not covered under section 23 above whatever tell in section 23. The threshold limit for registration applicable to a person exclusively engaged in supply of goods in state of Punjab will be 40 lakhs category state. The aggregate turnover of Deshbandhu in the current year is 41 lakhs. So 32 lakhs plus 9 lakhs, which exceeds the threshold limit of, he will liable to registration under section 22. Next, special category of person notified by government exempted for obtaining registration. So here some persons exempted for government, that is who is a person making only reverse charge mechanisms. That person is not required to get registration, because if you are supplying only reverse charge supplies, who is the person receiving the person will make the pay the GST. So you are not required to pay GST. For example, Manikarna Transporter is a GTA. Engaged exclusively supplying GTA services liable to tax under reverse charge. GTA is liable to charge and that is reverse charge. So since tax is being paid on GTA services at the rate of 5%, thus it is exempted from registration as it is engaged exclusively in making supplies, tax on which liable to be paid by the reverse charge basis. Further, Manikarna Transporter supplies said services to Divakar applicable manufacturing private limited, whose aggregate turnover does not exceed applicable threshold limit. However, if any person taken reverse charge basis services, that person turnover will not be counted. Even though his turnover will be 10 lakhs, he must get the registration. That is, however, since Divakar manufacturing is has to pay tax on GTA services under reverse charge, it is required to obtain registration mandatory irrespective of quantum of aggregate turnover. So when you are dealing with reverse charge cases, you must get the registration even if your turnover does not exceed the threshold limit, that is 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakhs. Next, persons making interstate supplies of taxable services up to 20 lakhs. Here that notified handicraft will be removed. Here, the person making interstate supplies of taxable services. For taxable goods, even though your turnover will be 1 rupee, you must get the registration. If you are in turnover of services, interstate services and handicraft services, then your turnover will be 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs in a financial year. However, exemption from obtaining compulsory registration. However, aggregate turnover supply of service supplies computed on all India basis should not exceed the amount of 10 lakhs in case of special category states, that is Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland. For example, Dola and Co. located in Delhi is engaged in supply of taxable goods. So he is providing taxable goods, and Delhi means it is a 40 lakhs case, and but in neighboring states, so it is dealing in interstate supplies, then it turnover became 20 lakhs. Haryana, its aggregate turnover in current year is 10 lakhs. Since it's engaged in making interstate supplies, taxable supply of goods, then irrespective of turnover, it will require to get registration. If it is dealing in service, then turnover limit will be seen. So, supply of goods, it is required to register mandatory under GST irrespective of its aggregate turnover. However, if the above case, Dola company is engaged in interstate supply of taxable services instead of goods, then it will be eligible for exemption from GST till its aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs. Next, person making interstate taxable supplies of notified handicraft goods and notified handmade goods up to 20 lakhs. Here, services are goods, that goods related to handicraft goods and handmade goods, or handmade goods, there may be turnover provide 20 lakhs turnover even they are making interstate supplies. Next, however, in the following cases, person making interstate supplies of goods have been exempted from obtaining registration. That is, person making interstate taxable supplies of notified handicraft goods and person making interstate taxable supplies of notified products when made by craftsmen predominantly by the, even though some machinery may be used. Conditions to be fulfilled. Here condition will be aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs, but in case of Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Nagaland will be 10 lakhs. Such person have obtained a PAN and have generated an e-way bill. He must generate e-way bills for the supply he is making. Example number 15. What is there in example number 15? Harija Private Limited located in Madhya Pradesh is a supplier of taxable and notified handicraft. It supplies these goods in the neighboring states of Uttar Pradesh. So he is in handicraft goods and he is supplying interstate supplies. His aggregate turnover will be in the month April is 15 lakhs. Harija Private Limited is engaged in making interstate supplies. Taxable goods is not liable to obtain registration till its aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs as it avails the exemption from registration. So it is exempted. Next, casual taxable person making interstate taxable supplies at notified handicraft goods and notified handmade goods. Here also same, that person, that above conditions whatever we are discussed above, that are same. Next, another person who is a e-commerce operator and his turnover but e-commerce operator who is providing services as per section 9.5, you must get the registration even though the turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs or 20 lakhs. But other than these services, that is section 9.5, other than that services, their turnover will be seen for 20 lakhs. That is person making supplies services other than supplies specified in section 9.5. E-commerce expert and who is collecting the taxes, TCS collections, then you will get the compulsory registration. But that above the 2%, other than the 2%, the turnover will be 20 lakh. But in case of Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura and Nagaland, the turnover will be 10 lakhs. In financial year has been exempted from obtain compulsory registration. Therefore, all service providers, whether supplying interstate or through e-commerce operator, will exempt from obtaining registration provided their aggregate turnover does not exceed 20 lakhs. Next, in 10 cases in special category states except Jammu Kashmir. Next, liability to register in respect of services provided by the commission agent as per APMC Act. ACMT Act. Commission agent as per APMC Act for sale purchase of agriculture produce. This is APMC. One APMC Act says then who is person who is specifying the commission agent person, they must get the registration for APMC Act for sale or purchase of agriculture produce. Qualify as supply under GST. It is qualified under GST. Following example, it further examine that. For example, they are providing one example and we will get the clarity. Mr. A sells agriculture produce by utilizing the service of Mr. B, who is a commission agent as per agriculture produce. So here B will be commission agent, A will be agriculturist, and B is registered person in APMC. And Mr. B identify the buyers and sellers agriculture produce on behalf of Mr. A, for which he charges commission from Mr. A. Okay. So registered person will be B. A is selling agriculture goods through B, and in case where the invoices is issued directly by Mr. A to the buyer, the commission agent P does not fall under category of agent covered under Schedule 1. So if the invoice is directly by Mr. A to the buyer, the commission agent Mr. B does not fall under the category of agent. He is not treated as agent. But where the invoice issued in the name of Mr. B, that is middle person Mr. B, then he is treated as agent. Then that such services supplied by commission agent Mr. B on behalf of principal without consideration shall be deemed to be supply. Next, the registration requirement to the commission agent in such case has been examined and clarified as follow. That is, as we already seen, as per section 24, a person liable for mandatory registration if he makes taxable supply of goods or services or both of other taxable person, that is agent person, must get a registration under GST as per section 24. Accordingly, commission agents will be liable to get mandatory register under these provisions only when both conditions is satisfied. That is, first condition, principal should be a taxable person, and the supplies made by the commission agent should be taxable. Both is taxable person. A principal will be taxable person and goods will be a taxable goods. Taxable supplies will be taxable. However, generally a commission agent under APMC Act makes supplies on behalf of agriculturist who is not taxable person if he supplies product out of cultivation of land. That commission agent who is making supplies on behalf of non-taxable person is not liable for compulsory registration under this provision. So if you see in markets, they get the registration from APMC and they sell the goods on behalf of farmers, and that person is not required to get the registration even though compulsory registration for agents. Next, further, since the services provided by commission agent for sale purchase of agriculture produce are exempted from GST, such commission agents are not liable to get registration in accordance with provisions of section 23. Next, however, commission agents is liable to pay GST, liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Such agents will be required to get registered compulsory. Next, section 23 summarized. Who is the persons not liable to registration? There are 4 persons. One is person engaged exclusively in business of supplying goods or services, both not liable to tax. And person engaged exclusively in business of supplying goods, services, both wholly exempted from tax. If you are not liable to tax your goods, then you are not get the registration. If you are dealing only exclusively exempted from tax, then you are not required to get registration. If you are an agriculturist, you are not required to get a registration. If you are a specified category of person notified by central government and GST recommendation, then you are not required to get the registration. If you are a commission agent as per registration as per APMC, you are also not get registration is correct only, not required. Even so, section 24 says that you are registered agent will be compulsory registration. Next, section number 25, I think so. What is there here? Section 25. Section 25. Where and by when to apply registration. Where and by when to apply registration. As per section 22 or 24. Section 22 or 24. Section 22 or 24. In every state or UT in which he is so liable. Section 22 or 74. Section 22 is if your turnover exceeds the threshold limits, that is 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakh. That 24 will be compulsory registration person. You are required to get a registration where you are get the liability. Next, within 30 days. How many days? Within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable for registration, or at least 5 days prior to commencement of the business. At least 5 days prior to commencement of business. For casual taxable person, it is related to casual taxable person. For normal persons, it is from date of becomes liable for registration for 30 days. If you are a casual or taxable person, then you are at least 5 days prior to commencement of business. Next, if you are every person who make that supply for the territorial water in India, then in the coastal state UT, where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located, he is get the registration within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable to registration. Next, example number 16. Sugam Services Limited is engaged in taxable supply of services in Delhi. So he is required to get registration under state of Delhi only. The turnover of Sugam Service Limited exceeds 20 lakhs on 1st November. It is liable to get registered by 1st December in Delhi. 1st November, 30 days will be time. 31st December will be the registration, liable to get registered by the 1st December. Next, statewide registration. As per section 25(2), one registration per state. There is one registration per one state. If you want to get a registration, you can get the registration. Registration is need to be taken statewide. There is no centralized registration under GST. Centralized registration is not there. Only business entities has branches in multiple states. If you want a multiple states, we have to take separate statewide registration for its branch in different states. Further, if you are within a state, an entity with different branches shall be granted single registration, where it can declare one place as principal place of business and other branches as additional place of business. For different states, different registration is mandatory. There is no concept of that centralized registration system. And if you are in one state, if you want to take another places as a place of business, then one principal place of business is required and remaining all are treated as additional place of business. Next, separate registration for different places of business within state or UT may be granted. Although a taxpayer having multiple places of business in one state is not mandatory required to obtain separate registration for each such place of business in the state. If he has an option to obtain independent registration with respect to each state of separate place of business. For example, in AP, I have the places of Kurnool, Anantapur, Kadapa, or different state. I have businesses. Then now I want to separate registration for each district. You have an option to select. However, separate registration for each place of business shall be granted provided all separately registered place of business of such person pay tax on supply of goods services both made to another registered person of good business of such person and issue a tax invoice or bill of supply for such supplies. Separate registration application need to be filed for each place of business. Next, registered person opting to obtain separate registration from a place of business shall submit separate application in form GST registration 1 in respect of such place of business. Next, provisions of Rule 9 and Rule 10 relating to verification and granting of registration shall mutatis and mutandis apply to the application submitted as a real. They may come for physical verifications. Next, example number 17. What is there in example number 17? Mita Lal and Sons, a supplier in Maharashtra, has 3 branches in Mumbai. So 3 branches in Mumbai. Pune, Mahabaleshwar. Mumbai, Pune branch are engaged in supply of garments, and Mahabaleshwar branch engaged in supply of shoes. So one is in garments, one is in shoes. Okay. Next, either it can single registration for Maharashtra, declaring one branch as principal place of business and other two branches has additional place of business, or it has an opt-in separate GST registration for each three branches in Mumbai, Pune, Mahabaleshwaram as a separate place of business. So it has an option for taxpayer. He may declare has one place of business and additional place of business, or he can get the separate registration for each place of businesses. In case Meethal seasons up to have separate registration for all these branches, and Mumbai branch send some garments subject to GST for sale to Pune branch. Mumbai branch must raise tax invoice and pay tax on such transfer of garments to Pune branch. So when you are having a different GST registration, you must raise the tax invoices. Next, composition levy. Okay, what is there in composition levy? In case of separate registration for multiple place of business within states, if a person paying tax one for each principal one place of business under normal scheme, and he shall not pay tax under composition levy for another place of business. If you do not have an option to select for one place is a taxable normal, one place is a composition. If you want to take composition, both the states must take the composition only, and composition turnover will be seen, that is 150 lakhs or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs turnover. Next, if one place of business separately registered for registered person became ineligible to tax under composition levy, all other registered place of business set to person would have to be ineligible. If any business is providing more than turnover what is specified, then the composition scheme is not applicable to one state, then remaining states also not applicable. Next, the provisions of rule 9(10) will be applicable, that is mutatis and mutandis. Next, voluntary registration as per section 25(3). Voluntary registration and UIN. Here voluntary registration, a person not liable to register under section 22 or 24 may get himself registered voluntarily. Section 22 related to threshold limit exceeds. Section 24 related to deemed registrations. If you are not come under that category, if you want to get the registration, you get registration, no issue. And next, voluntary registrations. In case of voluntary registration, however, once person obtain voluntary registration, he has to pay tax even though his aggregate turnover does not exceed the applicable threshold limit. Next, distinct person, establishment of distinct person as per section 24 and 5. A person who has obtained is required to obtain more than one registration, whether one state, union territory, more than one state, even though distinct person. What is meant by distinct person? Means if you have a same PAN, one PAN, and getting the registration in different states, from different state persons we will be treated as distinct persons. So where a person who has obtained or required to obtain registration by state, registration for state, then he is treated as distinctive persons. Further obtain or required to obtain registrations, establishment of distinct person will be treated. Next, PAN must for obtaining registration as per section 25. PAN account is mandatory for to get the eligible grant registration, but in case of NRTP, that is non-resident taxable person, it does not have PAN. So for the purpose of GST registration, we will get the passport details, that is may be granted registration on basis of other prescribed document. That other prescribed document is passport. Next, unique identification number, UID. UID means that is person who is a UID, who is applied for Aadhaar card. You have got the only identification number in respect of supplies to some notified agencies, union, nation organizations, multinational financial institutions and other organizations. UIN is issued. Just you will get the UIN from the GST portal. If you have a specified agency, the UIN is need for claiming refund of taxes. You will not get any liability of paying the taxes. Only you are serving some services to some person, that is World Health Organization or International Labour Organization, then you will get the UIN number. For that UIN number you can claim the refund whatever you have in GST importer, that ITC you can get the refund. Next, UN granted in a centralized UAN, that is each shall be applicable to territory of India. A person having UAN is not registered person and thus is not a taxable person. He is not pay any tax. He will only claim the ITC whatever is there in his registration. The proper officer may, upon submission of the application in prescribed form or after filling up the said form or after receiving a recommendation from the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, assigning UAN the said person, and issue certificate of form GST REG 06 within 3 working days from the date of submission of application. If you submit the application, you will get the registration. What is the application number, registration number you required to register? GST REG 6. If you are in a normal case, GST REG 1 will be submitted. You will get the registration within 3 working days. Next, suo motu registration. Suo motu registration by persons who is required to get the registration. If you want to by the proper officer, he will get some inquiry, or survey or inspection. He will say that you are a person is required to pay GST and you are required to get registration. You are failed for registration, then proper officer may register the said person on a temporary basis and issues order in prescribed manner. Such person shall either submit an application for registration in prescribed form within 90 days from the taking grant from temporary registration, or file an appeal against that some temporary registration. If appeal was if proper officer identified some person, X is a person, H is a person who is required to get registration, he is not got the registration, so taxpayer himself, tax officer himself register has a temporary registration. From after getting that temporary registration, I am the person who is the person, I may go for apply for within 90 days for getting the proper registration, or I can go for appeal, file an appeal. Next, in case if you are the authority upload the liability for registration, application for registration shall be submitted within 30 days. If you went the appeal for application authority, if the application authority tells that you are required to registration, then within 30 days you need to register under GST. Next, provisions relating to verification of registration certificate, that is rule 9 and 10 will be applicable mutatis and mutandis. Next, procedure for registration under section 25, rule 8, 9, 10. Rule 8 and 10, that is provisions related to procedure for application for registration, verification, application and approvals. Registration certificate, rule 8, 9, 10 applicable like same as section 28. That is however procedures rule laid down will not be applicable to here that rule 8, 9, 10 all applicable to persons who is under composition scheme and every person voluntary registration as well as taxable person. These 3 persons applicable that 3 rules, but this 4 persons is not required for that rules. That is non-resident taxable person, and person required to deduct tax at source, section 51. A person required to collect tax at source under section 52, and a person supplying OIR DIR services from one place outside India to non-taxable online recipient NTOR in section 14. This person is separate registration forms and procedures have been prescribed for each aforesaid person. Such person shall apply for registration in form GST REG 1. The application for registration GST REG 1 is divided into 2 parts, part A and part B. Okay. Next, application for registration by special category, special economic zone SEZ, that is section 25(1). Who is a SEZ in geographical boundary where the economic law relating to exports and imports are more liberal as compared to other parts of the country. SEZ is considered to be place of outside India in all taxable purposes. So if you are sending some goods to SEZ, it will be treated as exports. For example, if you are there may be case of where two units of taxpayer are located in same state UT, one in SEJ, one in another SEJ. That is, in that case, separate registration have to be applied for each two units in separate place of business. For example, Suvarna Industries is engaged in manufacturing activities in Uttar Pradesh. It has two manufacturing units in UP, one in SEJ, one in another outside SEJ. Under GST registration, under GST, one registration per state is required. One registration is state per required. However, since in this registration, one of two units of Suvarna Industries is located in SEJ, and SEJ unit will have to compulsory make separate application for registration as place of business distinct from unit located outside SEJ in the same state. Even though you are in same state, if you are in one SEJ, special economic zone, then it will be get the registration separately. Next, application for registration by input service distributor, ISD must get registered from filing the REG1 for providing if we will to require to distribute the inputs to their persons, and different offices like marketing division, security division, etc. may apply for separate ISD registration. Procedure for registration has been depicted by the diagram. What is the procedure for getting the registration? That is you are a person, every person liable to get registered and person seeking voluntary registration. So as per section 22 or 24, you are required to registration, or you are going for voluntary registration. Then before applying registration, you must have a valid PAN, that is permanent account number, mobile number and email ID, state UT in part A of form GST or REG1. If you are going for GST REG1, you must fill REG1. In that you must get the details of, you must require to provide the details of PAN card, mobile number, email ID, state or UT in part A on common GST. After you have provided that details, you will get the OTP for PAN number, PAN, mobile number and email address are validated. Once you got the PAN for both the details, that mobile and email, then you can validate that OTPs. PAN validation online by common portal from CBDT, and mobile number and email IDs through OTPs. Next, once you have validated, then you will get the TRN number, that is temporary reference number, is generated and communicated to the applicant on the validated mobile number and email address. Next, using this TRN number, applicant shall electronically submit application in part B of application form along with specified documents at the common portal. In part B, we are required to provide information at the same time attachments. Next, part B of application contains details of such constitution of business, jurisdiction, option for composition, date of commencement of business, reason to obtain registration, address of principal place of business and nature of activity carried out thereon, details of additional place of business, details of bank account, details of authorized signature, other authentication, etc. This information is required at part B. We are required to provide this information along with attachments wherever required. Next, on receipt for such application, an acknowledgement in the prescribed form shall be issued to the applicant electronically. So once acknowledgement is generated, ARN number will be generated. Next, a casual taxable person applying for registration get a TRN number for making an advance deposit of tax. Where a casual taxable person is registering, he must pay the tax of advance tax for whatever he is providing goods in that occasion. Once he pay the advance tax in electronic cash ledger, and acknowledgement he is issued only after the said deposit. Next, application should be forwarded to the proper officer. The procedure after receipt of application by the proper officer is depicted in part 2. That is proper officer, what he can do? Proper officer examine the applications and accompanying documents. Whatever in B we are providing information and attachments, that attachments and information will be verified by the proper officer. If the information is found, if the same found in order, if you are provided all information correct within 7 working days from the date of submission of application, without site verification, if you are applied successfully Aadhaar authentication is done, then you will get the GST registration. If you, in case you are not opted for Aadhaar authentication, then within 30 days physical verification will be done. After the site verification only GST registration certificate will be provided. If the same information provided is not corrected, then proper officer issues notice electronically within 7 working days from the application submission date, thereby seeking clarification information or documents for the application. Whatever the information is required, he will provide the in notice, show cause notice. Notice may be issued not later than 30 days from the application submit date in case of where the person fails to undergo other authentication, does not opt for other authentication. If you are not opted for other authentication, there will be time for 30 days. After that 30 days you will get the notice. Next, if the application has furnished the clarification, if you are provided the clarification within information documents within 7 working days from the receipt of notice, within notice, then proper officer satisfied. If the proper officer satisfied with your clarification, then you will provide within 7 days a GST registration certificate. If you are not satisfied, then proper officer may reject the application for reason to be recording in writing. Here clarification includes modification, corrections of particular details declared in application for registration other than PAN, state, mobile number or email address, which is provided in Part A. Next, deemed approval of application, where within 7 days the proper officer is not provided information, it can be treated as deemed approval, where deemed approval application will be filled. For example, we have 7 days for timing giving the clarification, or in case of other authentication not after 30 days will be there. In that case, we will get the deemed approval for what, or if you provided proper information, we will get the GST registration within 7 days. If we are not got the GST registration within 7 days, or if we are not get the any show cause notice from the proper officer, it will be treated as deemed approval. That is like this: in case where registration is to be granted after physical verification of the premises of person who is failed to undergo the other authentication, does not opt for other authentication, or since proper officer deems it fit to carry out physical verification of principal place of business, then within a period of 30 days from the date of submission of application, if the proper officer verified, okay, if the not of verified, then it will be treated as deemed approval. Next, in case of person obtained through covered above within a period of 7 working days from the date of submission of the application, there is no intimation from the government, then it will be treated as all information provided was correct and deemed approval. Next, in case where a proper officer issues notice seeking clarification information, if you are get the any show cause notice and you have applied within 7 days, and after within 7 days no information from the GST office, then you will deem to be applied provisions. Deemed provisions will be applied. That is unsuccessful authentication of Aadhaar and no show cause notice being issued, registration will be deemed to be approved within 7 working days. However, if Aadhaar authentication is not applied, then 30 days will be seen. Next, the tax officer can issue show cause notice within 7 working days granting of registration in case of successful other verification. However, in case of where taxpayer does not opt for provide other authentication, then it will be issue show cause notice up to 30 days. In both case, applicant can get reply within 7 days. Here, other authentication. What is mean by other authentication? How the other authentication will be done? That is, here for other authentication, we will see that we will go with that persons who is required to get other authentication, required to get the other authentication. He must first opt for other authentication. For new registration, you will get the authentication link. From authentication link, you require to provide the Aadhaar number. From Aadhaar number, you get the one OTP from Aadhaar UIDN, and once you are provided that Aadhaar number, linked Aadhaar number, phone number, that Aadhaar OTP was correctly provided, then Aadhaar verification is completed. If within 7 working days, it was mandatory for site visit. However, in case new registration, here with once the other authentication has been successfully validated, then it will be approved within 7 working days, and registration application submitted to by him, not marked for mandatory site visits. So if you are done the other authentication, then there is no site visits unless tax officer raises any show cause notice within stipulated time. However, in case new registration that not opt for other authentication, if you are not obtained just other authentication at the time of registration of Form B, then authentication failed, or if the authentication is failed due to some reasons, there may be difference in PAN, other numbers, names, or some other details, authentication is failed, approved, not deemed to be approved within 7 days, then it will be marked as mandatory site visit and approval thereafter by the tax officials. If you are a existing registration, all the regular taxpayers and composition taxpayers are required to get other authenticated from existing GST registration, and existing taxpayer can get himself other authentication on GST portal using either other authentication link or uploading EKYC documents. So he may get the other link or EKYC documents, he may apply. Next, a person required to undergo other authentications. New registration is must when on date of submission of application. Such case shall be either earlier of date of authentication of the Aadhaar number. Once you submitted the part B of successfully, and we have time for 15 days, you must submit the other authentication 15 days from the submission of the application in part B of form GST registration 1. Next, in case application is an individual, he shall undergo other authentication on his own Aadhaar number. If you are other than individual, then if it is a HUF, Karta will be due. If it is a company managing director person, other authentication is required. And if other person, whole time directors, or such other persons, members, managing committee, manager, associate person, board of trustees, authorized person who is required to get their other authentication in GST. Next, persons already registered. Every registered person shall undergo other authentication, furnish proof of possession of Aadhaar number in prescribed form. Next, where Aadhaar number is not assigned, if you do not have an Aadhaar number is not assigned, then alternative and viable means of identification in the manner specified in Rule 9. What is that? If a person fails to undergo other authentication and does not opt other authentication, or the proper officer with the approval of an authorized commissioner not below the rank of assistant commissioner deems it fit to carry out the physical verification. So if you are not opted for other authentication, the physical verification will be done. From based on physical verification, you get the registration certificate. Without physical verification, you will not get the registration. So the registration shall be granted within 30 days of submission of application only after physical verification was done. Next, physical verification of done and verification of such documents and proper officer may deem fit. Further such cases, that is where person is undergone other authentication, not opted other authentication, a PO deems it free carry out site verification, then he will not later than 30 days from the submission of application. From registration certificate you will submit, from that day to within 30 days he will carry out the other physical verification. Next, in case of already registered person, Aadhaar number is not assigned to existing registered person, as such person offered alternative or viable means. If you are not providing any other authentication, then they will provide other alternative way. If you are not provided other alternative will also, then failure to undergo other authentication, furnish proof of possession of Aadhaar number, furnish alternative numbers, then registration allotted to such person shall be deemed to be invalid, and other provisions of CGST shall apply if such person does not have registration. So if you are a new person, physical verification will be carried on. If you are a existing person, the registration will be treated as invalid if you are not got the other authentication. Next, persons a class of persons exempt from other authentication. Some class of persons is exempted from getting the other authentication. That is a person who is not a citizen. A person who is not a citizen, or department or establishment of state government or central government, local authorities, statutory bodies, public sector undertakings. A person applying for unique identification. You are a new registered person. These persons are not required to get the registration other authentication under GST. Next, furnishing of bank details. As per rule 10A, it is required wherever the person is required to get the registration under GST, he must submit the bank details, but not later than the 45 days from the date of grant of registration, or date on which return required to be filed and per section 39 due to be furnished, whichever is earlier. So after proper completion of the other authentication within 45 days, or for the first GST return, whichever is earlier, you should require to submit the bank details. However, this relaxation is not available for persons who have been granted registration as TDS deductor or TCS deductors. So there are mandatory required to furnish GST bank details at the time of filing of application of registration. So TDS TCS person must registration at the time of registration only they provide bank details, but normal persons they may submit their bank details 45 days or first date of return, that is registration return under section 39. Next, physical verification of business premises in certain cases, rule 25, where proper officer is satisfied that physical verification of place of business of a person is required to due failure of other authentication. If any person's other authentication is failed, or he is not opted for other authentication before granting registration or any other registration, he may get such verification at the place of business in the presence of said person done, and these verification reports along with other documents including photographies will be uploaded in prescribed form common portal within period of 15 working days following the date of verification. So after 30 days is expired, for 15 days will be provided for physical verification, total 45 days in case of other authentications. Next, issuance of registration certificate. REG 6. Once proper approved a certificate of registration in REG 6 showing principal place of business or APB, then will be providing the common portal GST registration GST number will be communicated to application within 7 days after the granting the registration. Once grant the registration within 3 days, you will be get the notification. This is GST in format, that is state code, PAN, entity code, check some character. Next, display the GST certificate and GST on the name board. Rule 18. It is required, it is mandatory. Every registered person shall display the his registration certificate in prominent location at his place of business, and at every additional place of business. Further, his GST number also will be displayed on the name board exhibited at the entry of his place of business and every additional place of business. Next, effective date of registration. Rule 10 is where the application submits application of registration, where the application is submitted, application is a registered person, then effective date will be date of registration. Within 30 days from the date of become liable for registration, then the date on which he becomes liable for registration is the effective date of registration, where after 30 days from the date he becomes liable for registrations, the date grant of registration will be treated as effective date of registration. For example number 19, Sugam Services Limited is engaged in taxable supply of services in Madhya Pradesh. So Madhya Pradesh is providing services. Turnover of Sugam Services will be exceeded 20 lakhs on 1st November. So from 1st November within 30 days he is required to get the registration. It is required to submit application of registration up to 1st December. That is 30 days. In the state of Madhya Pradesh, it applies registration on 28th November and is granted registration certificate on 5th December. The effective date of registration will be treated as 1st November. That is when he become liable to registration, it will be treated as effective date of registration. Next, example number 20. In above examples, if Sugam Services Limited applies for registration on 3rd December and he is granted registration certificate on 10th December, the effective registration, if above example, applies for registration on 3rd December, that is after 30 days. Then the date of grant of registration will be treated as effective date, that is granting date will be 10th December. The effective date will be treated as 10th December. Next one, special provisions for granting registration in case of non-resident taxable person, NRTP, and casual taxable person, CTP. These two persons are section 25 and section 27 will be treated. Registration, it will be treated in next class, bro.